Okay, today I want to talk just a little bit about some other crazy thing I found with AI. I write research papers, and so as part of that, I review a lot of research papers. And I got a particular research paper to review, and I can't say exactly what journal or who the authors were or anything like that because it's confidential. Although I would like to say who they are because I think it's absurd what happened here. But anyway, so I got a paper to review. It had 38 listed references, and I randomly selected one of those references just to look up. They all looked legitimate. I mean, as far as the title of the reference and the people, I recognize several of the names because they're people in fields that I do research in. And so I just randomly picked one reference, and it was fake. Okay, it didn't exist. And so that was enough for me. So I rejected the paper, recommended to reject the paper just based on that. Later, I went back through just out of curiosity and looked up every one of the 38 references. And what I found was the following, according to my calculation down here. I would say that 9 of them were essentially correct. I had maybe minor mistakes that a person could actually make if they were doing this honestly. And 4 of them kind of exist, but they had sort of more major mistakes. You know, the author's names were wrong or something, but the paper actually existed. Or the title was, wrong in a kind of significant way, but, relatively minor things. So I'm willing to let those slip. But 25 of the 38 were, in my opinion, clearly wrong. I mean, they just didn't exist. Many of them just obviously didn't exist. And a couple of them were, had serious mistakes. Like 2 of the 3 were wrong: title, authors, and venue. If you have 2 of those 3 completely wrong, I think it should be wrong. And so there were a few like that, but most of them just didn't exist at all. So, it's like 2/3 of them were pretty obviously hallucinations from AI. And so then I went to a couple other sources. There are a couple of tools online. There's something called CiteTrue. There's also Citely, which will look up citations. Okay, so there already exist tools to do this, to look for fake citations. And so I couldn't use this one, I believe, because they only allowed a small number, maybe 5, to check before they want to charge you. This one, I could put all 38 in, CiteTrue, I believe. And so I got some results for that. What were those results? So here's this Citely. Oh, Citely can only do a small number. Okay, so CiteTrue, what it came up with there was that 9 of the 38 were 100% real, which matches my 9 here. Those were the same 9. And then these 4 that I sort of questioned, similarly found, say, it gave us a percentage rating, so it said 80%, and rated those as minor issues. And then these 6 here, these 19 were all clearly fake. I mean, it gives them a 0% rating, and that's what I found. Vast majority of these 25 down here, so that must be the same 19. I'm assuming they're the same 19. Were clearly fake. And then these 6 I went back and looked at, and these 6 were listed as questionable here, and I think it's being pretty generous in listing those as questionable. I mean, they had, like I mentioned, 2 of the 3. If you look at authors, title, and not just small changes in the title, I mean major errors in the title, and then venue. So is it a journal? What's the journal name? Is it a conference? What's the name of the conference? So they had 2 of those 3 wrong, and yet it still gives it, a 70% rating in most cases. So, I think it's being very generous. So anyway, at least 19 of the 38, so at least half, were clearly fake according to CiteTrue. So just out of curiosity, then I went to ChatGPT and put in all 38 of these references and said, okay, which of these are real, or how many of the, tell me which of these are real and which are fake. And it came up with 16 being clearly real, which is way more. Even the 13 here is more than the 13, even if you're generous and include those. And even if you include the 6 down here, you're at 19, and it has a whole bunch that are likely real and only 3 that are likely fake, when it's clear that 25 of the 38 are fake. So it's done a pretty poor job of separating out the real from the fake. So I did the same thing with Gemini. I put all 38 in there, and for some reason it only would analyze 23 of them. I don't know why. And 5 of them it decided are fake or highly inaccurate. And again, it's just missing a huge percentage of these. And I'm not quite sure why that's the case. This does not seem like that difficult of a problem. Okay, if the chatbot, recognizes that these are citations, it should be able to look them up and see if they're real. There's obviously tools that can do this, things like Citely and CiteTrue, and so it's not that challenging of a problem. And so it's just kind of curious to me that they can't do a better job than this. Anyway, so it's kind of a short take on what's happening with fake references. I think this is a serious problem for academic research. Hopefully, journals will sort of build in automatic tests for things like CiteTrue. It will have those built in, and it will automatically flag papers that where people gotten so lazy that they just put in a bunch of fake references based on some chatbot and don't even bother to look them up to, so where most of the references come in research papers is in the background sections, right? So you have a few papers that are relevant, directly relevant to the research you're doing. Maybe you're following up or you're extending some existing research. So those papers are probably real because you've read those papers, right? But when it comes to the background, you have a bunch of background topics and you need references citing all those background topics. That's where people get lazy, apparently, and cite a bunch of papers or just have ChatGPT or whatever chatbot write up their background section, and it fills it up with fake references, and they don't even bother to go through and check those references. I think these people should be shamed, and I'd love to do so, but there's confidentiality agreements, and I can't do that, so I won't do that here. Anyway, I think it's a serious problem, and I think it's a kind of a shocking failure of AI tools that they are this poor on something that really is not that hard of a problem. So yeah, so it's just kind of surprising to me they can't do better than this.